That is special. DJ Shub, Rooftop here on Breakfast Television. He'll be here for the next hour and a bit. We appreciate him. It's a National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. Melanie Yang, I'm Sid Sixero. It was one of Canada's longest running residential schools, and it still stands in Brantford, Ontario. With it, over 140 years of trauma. Mel, you just visited the school a few weeks ago and actually talked to some survivors?
I did, and for our viewers who watched last year when we did this special on September the 30th, it's the same school that I visited last year. This year holds an extra weight with it. So I spoke with 3 survivors, and they shared their story. Before we watch this piece here, I do want to warn our viewers. The content you will hear will be graphic in nature.
I was sent to this place, and I was glad to get out here, but I ran away to get out of here.
The officers never called me Dawn. They called me number 54.
Ewahahawi means she carries flowers, and that was my first name. I'm very proud that I can say who I am in my language, because that's what this part of this what was, to take away our language and our culture and our tradition.
Dawn Hill, John Elliot, Sherlene Bomberry, 3 separate stories united in trauma. Each attended the Mohawk Institute in Brantford, Ontario, operating as a residential school for 140 years. 80,000 Indigenous children are estimated to have been sent here from 6 nations and other reserves across the province. Away from their families, their culture stripped. The school closing its doors in 1970, but for these survivors, the pain remains. Do you remember the day that you were brought here?
Yep, September the 7th, 1947. Me and my older brother and my sister next to me. The boys master took us down through the school and down the playroom. Bunch of kids down there, and then we went outside. And my brother says, "What do you think?" I said, "I don't think I'm going to like it here." He said, "Well, let's go."
10-year-old John didn't understand why he was sent to the Mohawk Institute, but knew he didn't want to stay. On foot, he and his brother started a 2.5-hour trek to get back to their grandfather. But when he saw them, he sent them back.
He said, "I didn't send you there." He says, "The government sent you there." But I didn't know what he meant.
John given 5 different numbers during his time at the Mohawk Institute, a new one for each time he ran away, often braving the wintry elements, in an attempt to escape the violence he endured. He recalls what happened if kids didn't attend church.
There'd be 25, 30 guys Sunday night. They'd call their name out after supper, line up upstairs to get your strapping and that.
One male staff member he remembers well.
That guy, he loved to strap my ass. Bare ass.
You got the strap?
Yeah. He had a strap about that wide and about that long. And I wouldn't cry. That's what made him mad. I could cry, but I wouldn't cry for him.
Dawn Hill was placed at the Mohawk Institute in 1957. Her father had passed away. Her mother was ill. A then 7-year-old Dawn, alongside her 2 sisters and brother, kept apart by the staff as much as possible. Her interactions with her brother, brief and from a distance.
When I would see him in the dining room, I'd wave at him and he'd wave back. And that's the only time I got to talk to him, and one day he was gone. Nobody thought to tell us where he went or what happened to him.
Dawn describes the violence she experienced, given the strap for sleeping in the same bed as her sister. A culture of fighting among kids that was never stopped by staff. Knuckles hit with a pointer for not holding her pencil correctly. Her younger sister, Roberta, sexually abused.
You always lived in constant fear. There was always that background violence. You know, the fear of not doing the right thing, or, I don't know, you didn't even know what you did wrong sometimes.
That abuse continued as the sisters left the school and went into foster care. Dawn recalls what happened with her foster father and older son who lived with them. Behavior that at the time she did not know to be wrong.
Because they were touching us inappropriately, saying, "Oh, I didn't see you there," or whatever, you know, that type of stuff. I chalk that up to the fact that we didn't have a lot of social skills. We didn't know the norms for society.
Sherlene also learned to accept the abuse as normal, living with pain from her time at the Mohawk Institute.
Mine's right here. Yeah, Sherlene Bomberry. I came 66 to 70.
At the age of 10, she stepped foot on this property with 3 younger siblings, one of the last groups of children to attend before the school shut its doors. Her first experience with the violence when asked by staff if she had a bad day.
Okay, everybody that didn't have a good day, into the bathroom. She says, okay, everybody, put your hands out like this. So she put my hands out like this, and she had this ruler. Like, it wasn't thick, but it was like that wide. And she just up and down like this, up and down like this. From that first hit is where I stopped trusting. I stopped trusting myself. I stopped trusting other people and saying, you know what? You're not going to listen to me anyway.
Sherlene's journey began with silence. It wasn't until years later that she finally opened up, learning her grandmother had also attended the school and revealing her journey to her children.
But when I started my healing journey, 21 years ago, I took off this coat of shame and guilt that I carried since I was 10 years old. I blamed myself, you know, and I felt shameful that I was here.
I think it's important that people hear from a lot of people what they experienced here. So mostly so it doesn't happen again.
The steps of the Mohawk Institute, a reminder of what happened as ground searches of former residential schools across Canada are currently underway.
As I'm staring at you, I'm looking at running shoes, and teddy bears, and flowers of all the babies and young lives, those who couldn't come home. How does this make you feel to see this?
That is pretty tough.
The same person in that piece, outstanding job. The same person in that piece that said, I was not going to let that one guard see me cry, couldn't take that question. It says a lot. It really says a lot.
So being back on those grounds and talking to the survivors, and you know, these stories are difficult to tell. Really difficult to tell, and we're going to talk about the intergenerational trauma that comes with this, because I spoke with 3 people, but they shared their stories about their families and how their families carried this trauma. And so, you know, that piece was put together, that was pre-recorded, but watching it back and hearing it again, it doesn't take away the pain. So there's a lot. There's a lot more we need to do. Let's put it that way. Part 2 said there's more to this conversation. It was difficult to put that into 6 minutes that you watched on air. There's so much more that I wish I could have done. The biggest question will be the what's next. It is going to be the ground search that is planned for those lands, Mohawk Institute, that former residential school. And you're also going to hear about their path to healing. You heard from Sherlene Bomberry, who talked about she took off this coat of shame. I'll ask Dawn the question. I will also ask John the question to see where they are right now.
Again, these are the conversations we're going to have. This is too important a day. Again, Melanie Ying will have more on this coming up a little later on here on the show. And it is serious material. It is to a lot of people, it's fresh material. To others, this is not a new story. Eyewitnesses have been telling these accounts for a long time. Mel, great job with that. And we'll hear more about this a little later on here on Breakfast Television. Time for a break. More PT after this.